Hello, and welcome back to Bad Moms in Business, the podcast. I'm Bridgette Robertson.
I'm Amanda Sharp.
I'm Danielle Monahan.
And today we are going to talk about the two or three things that happened in our lives that made us the women that we are today. So I'm super excited to dive into that. But first, Amanda, tell us about your health crisis.
You know, crisis is not the word, but debilitating could be used.
This is true. I'm smiling, but it's actually very serious.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I can joke about it and I can have fun with it and smile about it, but I suffer from vertigo. And I'm sure some ladies or men listening also suffer from it. And Marcus makes fun of me because 90% of my life I live dizzy. Like I'm always off balance,
I had no
right?
idea.
Yeah. So I always have to be careful how I bend over, how I pick something up. That's why I literally use my toes often. It's silly, but then I don't have to bend over. I'm bringing it up to me. I can't turn quickly.
I didn't know this about you. I didn't realize that's what it was. You have an equilibrium problem. You should seriously go see an ENT.
But it doesn't work. I'm positive, like it just truly does not work. So a lot of things have been done, but so 90% of my life I'm a little off, and I call it my disease, right? But occasionally, about once a year or every year and a half, I get the full blown vertigo where I stand up and I hit the floor and I spin for 12 to 24 hours. And why I'm doing it, I'm puking my guts out.
Well, how nauseating. Ugh.
And I have to crawl to the bathroom because I can't walk to the bathroom because I literally will fall down, and I'm hoping that I can make it to the bathroom in time. And the thing is, even if I were to throw up in like a bag, I still then have to take the bag out. So I'm going, okay, try to make it to the bathroom because you have to make it somewhere anyway, right? It just is awful. And then, so after the first 24 hours, I at least stopped throwing up. But I was solid dizzy until Sunday. So that hit me early Friday morning, like at 12:30 in the morning. And I was very dizzy up until Sunday.
Yeah.
But at least I stopped throwing up. And today, so it's been Friday to now Tuesday, because we record on Tuesdays. And I'm about 90%.
That's good.
90% normal.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So it's crippling, and I couldn't work because I couldn't drive. You know, I can't look correctly without throwing up, basically. So I can't really get into the car. I'm sorry, I'm using the word throw up instead of vomit, but it's just my style.
Wow. So I'm curious, because I know we talked about it when you were kind of in the throes of it, if there were things that worked for you, and you were saying, really, no, it just has to run its course. So I'm wondering if there's listeners that maybe have some remedies that they've tried successfully that they could share, because you're not alone.
And I'm not. And oftentimes the people who are suffering from it suffer from it how I almost live my life daily, if that makes sense. So those tricks don't like really work on my mild symptoms. They do not work on my full-blown symptoms. But I am open to anything because it's miserable. And I go, what does it hurt? And if I'm going to throw up regardless of doing it or not, I might as well try, because there are certain like positions you can go into, which is the last thing you want to do when you're literally spinning, like you're in a roller coaster and you just can't get off. If it doesn't make you want to like throw up just hearing about it,
it's terrible.
It should.
So I have a quick story about this. So I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't dealt with anything like this in years. And mine, it turns out, was stress induced. I had been to see every doctor known to mankind to tell me that. So I was sitting at my desk one day, and it was in my bedroom. I was still living at home with my mom at the time. I was like 18, 19, something like that. And it was like 1:00 in the morning or something. I was studying. And then all of a sudden I closed my book and the whole room just went, whoop. It was horrifying. I fell to the floor. I was sitting. I still somehow managed to hit the floor.
But that's seriously how instant it is and how you just like absolutely like your body almost can't control like its movements anymore. You literally
100%.
like flop. It's the
Yep.
scariest thing.
And so I had to like army crawl down the hallway to my mom's room. Like, what is happening? I'd never experienced anything like this before, but through my multiple stages of like doctors and stuff, I went to see an upper cervical practitioner. It's basically a chiropractor, but he had a fancier title for it. He was not just a chiropractor. He was an upper cervical practitioner. He put me in the most bizarre positions. Like I was leaning backwards in a chair, but I was like kind of sideways. And like he had this huge machine come in front of me, had like this big pointer thing, and it was angled towards my ear. And I was horrified of what was going to happen. And it wiggled my earlobe for like 10 minutes. That's what his treatment was for it. And I walked out of there dizzy. I was like, this is stupid.
That's the problem. Oftentimes the remedy actually can cause me to be even more dizzy because Amanda normal is dizzy enough. Like I don't want to like level it up into something else. Yeah. Why would it not cause you to be dizzy? Shaking your brain.
Just wiggled my earlobe. I just wiggled my earlobe just like this. Like it was the dumbest thing ever. It was ridiculously expensive to do that. It's so stupid.
I will say mine is probably 50% stress induced, 50% weather induced.
Interesting.
Because the weather's changing here in Michigan. I mean, it's going from 30-degree days to 70-degree days, all in the same 24-hour period.
No joke. Literally.
So there was pressure that I could feel as like, oh, if I could just get rid of the pressure. So I was taking some allergy medicines and anti-nausea, but it's just not fun. So if anyone has tried and true remedies for the full blown version of vertigo, let me know.
I can help you with stress things because I am an avid stressor. But that's it. That's all I can do.
I appreciate that.
I hope something works for you.
But with Bridgette having had COVID and me having dizzy brain, we've had to rely on Danielle to remind us what we're supposed to be doing.
It's okay. My husband calls me his external brain. He doesn't need to save things in his brain because he has my brain. So just bring it on.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to cause Danielle stress. Don't get vertigo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. The COVID fog is so real. And I'll be having a conversation with someone and the word I'm looking for is just like, it's there, but I can't grasp it. It's the strangest thing.
And for me, I think when my brain literally is trying not to work because it's trying to heal itself. Like I'm sure it's just trying to reconnect the wires properly. So I stopped spinning. So I'm sure my brain was in overdrive. So I feel like I've worked out my brain too hard since Friday. And that's why I can't remember anything. That's why I'm going with. So thank you, Danielle.
So
anytime.
Amanda, I'm going to kick this to you.
Okay.
To give our disclaimer about today.
I feel very strongly about this disclaimer.
This is why I'm kicking it to you.
So we are talking about monumental, pivotal moments in our lives that really set us on the path to who we are today. And so we all came up with our list. And at the end of the day, each one of us had mom and wife on there.
Yep.
Because that's 99.9% of everything I am. But we thought that would maybe be boring for you guys to listen to because I think you all agree husbands and children are, of course, one of the best things that have happened. So we want to give you a little bit of taste outside of what you already know we are, which we're moms and we're wives. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into other things that would have turned our lives around to a different, definitely a better path than maybe what we're on.
Absolutely.
How is that? Did I do good enough?
Yeah.
You did a perfect job.
Okay.
Yes, that was great.
So are we going to start with Bridgette, do our whole B.A.D routine here?
I can't go off script, so I have to go in the order. I'm not in the condition to
to have anything at you.
Most minimal.
I've been trained bad.
Yeah, exactly. I like it.
Okay, so I guess I will start.
I like how she looks down at her notes. She's like, I have so many. Where should I start?
No, I'm trying to figure out which one to say first. I think, and I'm, remembering that my mother listens to the podcast. Not that this isn't.
Hello.
It's not. But I grew up with a mom who worked very, 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 very hard, and a dad who didn't. I'll just say it. And so I grew up in a house where money was very tight. And I grew up in a house where I never wanted for anything. Do you know what I mean? Like there was never a need, a real need that wasn't met.
I think that was so much of the 80s, don't you? Like,
oh yeah,
we didn't want for anything. There just wasn't
anything extra.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Right. Like all of my friends had like American Eagle jeans or Abercrombie hoodies, and I was literally shopping in a thrift store for back to school clothes. I had clothes on my back. I had food.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't what my friends had, right? So that set me off onto a path as an adult, a young adult, because I'm almost middle-aged now. So
you look fantastic.
Cool.
But that set me off onto a path of, if I want it, I'm going to get it, and I don't care what that means. Because there was so much that I wanted growing up, right? And so if I wanted that designer purse, I would buy it, even if that meant I had to put it on a credit card. And if I wanted that, whatever it was, I would get it because I am entitled to that. I deserve that. I grew up going without the things that I wanted. Which landed me in about $25,000 worth of credit card debt.
You're not the only one, Bridgette. You're not. You're not the only one.
No. I'm out of that credit card debt now. Thank the Lord.
Hold on. We can't just surpass that. That is huge. And I don't care if you did it last week, 10 years ago, doesn't matter. That's incredible because so many people struggle to do that exact thing. And we celebrate you for that. That's incredible.
It was hard work. It was
I believe it.
Yeah. But Chris, my husband, Chris, I mentioned you. We did it.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Chris is very frugal and he is very good with money. And I have learned to be good with money, but it took me a very long time to get there. And so I just watching my parents struggle with money and then becoming somebody who struggled with money at a certain point, once I had kids, I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to have $900 a month worth of credit card bills that I'm paying. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And so it really made me flip and decide that if I wanted something badly enough, I could save for it. I didn't have it. Like, I'm such an instant gratification person. It's why I'm overweight. It's why I was in credit card debt. It's just who I am as a person. I'm very impulsive. But yeah, so credit card debt and climbing out of it has definitely set me on the path of who I am now at 35 and hopefully will carry me the rest of my life.
I'm fascinated by that. And I would assume that a lot of our viewers would be interested in your path at when you made that decision, like no more, to that final bill being paid. I would love to kind of get that story of from that to that. And I'm sure our viewers.
It seems like it was just like a mindset shift. Like you would you just wake up one day and was like, done, I'm over it.
Well, it took years. I mean, for years I was paying these minimum payments, right? Going $25 here, $50 here. Yeah, because when you have that much debt,
yes,
on top of your mortgage, on top of your car payment, on top of your child's private school tuition. I mean, we were talk about paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes we were paycheck to nobody breathe on our debit card because our bank is going to go negative. I mean, there were tons of times.
Wow.
Well, you and again, everyone else. So we'll have to add that to our list of topics to kind of dive
Yes.
into a little
Yeah.
bit.
Doing that now.
Thank you, Danielle, because she's our brain right now. But I think because you did it. So, oftentimes, you hear these people say, do it like this, do it like this. But unless someone's been at that point and then got out by doing A, B, and C, and and not that it's just going to take 9 months. No, it's going to be a year worth of sacrifice.
By the time I figured it, because I tried a bunch of different techniques, but by the time I got to the point where I had finally figured out what was going to work for us, and we can talk about what that is a different time, it was 3 years.
Wow.
But it was, several years leading up to that.
How good you had to feel on that final payment. Oh, my word. I can't wait to hear more about this. Oh,
yeah, that's a great topic. I'm excited.
Love it.
Me too. That's a great topic.
Danielle. Oh my goodness. Is that the conclusion of your first one?
That's the conclusion. I'm working to be better with money. I still buy things I don't need, but I'm not going into debt for them.
Absolutely.
And so
that's the key right there.
100%. So now my next step is stop buying crap you don't need. But gosh.
And then the step after that, minimalism.
I know, Danielle.
Do it.
That's a topic for you to talk about.
Oh, I would talk about that all day. And I don't even consider myself a minimalist, but I'm working on it. I will be one day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, everything's a work in progress.
Yes.
Otherwise I think it becomes an obsession, if you do it too quick. And it's
great point.
It's like if you diet too quickly, it's not going to be sustainable. You have to make small changes. So at the end of the day, the habit has been broken.
Slow growth.
So mine is totally different than Bridgette's, but that seems to be always what our stuff is. That's why I love the different personalities. But mine go back to Amanda, the year she was supposed to start kindergarten.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Here we go.
Way back when. And it's so silly, but this was so instrumental to me becoming me.
Interesting.
That I was supposed to start kindergarten because I was 5, had a July birthday, supposed to start, kindergarten that fall. It was back in the day that you actually had to get interviewed to make sure you were ready to start kindergarten.
Oh,
I'm old. I knew that was I'm old. I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 in July.
No, I feel like that might still be a thing.
Is it? I guess I don't know anything about it.
They do it differently, but you actually had to meet with the teacher and make sure that you were really ready. Like it wasn't like it is now. It was just a little different.
Okay. You know what? I think you're right. They had to do that with me too. You're right. I totally wasn't thinking about that.
So I went, now mind you, the gentleman that was interviewing me was my sister's teacher because she would have been 1 year ahead of me. He had talked to me. He had known me. I know this man. And so now he's interviewing me and I absolutely bottle up. Not going to say a word.
Oh,
what's your name? It's not like I was smart enough not to speak at all. So when he says, what's your name? I go, I don't know. Like, come on, Amanda. When you know how to say, I don't know, you know your stupid name.
Yeah, for sure.
Who doesn't know Amanda? Well, at the time it was Amanda Patrick, but who doesn't know Amanda Sharp now, right? So, I had no issue saying my name. And I just would not answer any of the questions because I did not want to go to school and not want to leave my mom. I just loved being with my mom so much. So,
my heart hurts.
Right? So the teacher, he was so sweet. He said, you know what? She has a July birthday. Another year at home isn't going to kill anyone.
Your mom's like, it's going to kill me. Get her out.
Nope. So guess who negotiated another year at home? Amanda. So I got to stay home a whole nother year and be with my mom. And mind you, I worked hard with my mom. She cleaned houses. I've told you how I would go to houses and clean with her because I would have rather clean toilets than go to school. That's how serious I was. So that moment in time was so important to me that I was given that extra year with my mom. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I truly do.
Wow.
And all of those precious moments that extra year gave me were so instrumental because my mom, I truly say everything I am today is because of my mom. So every little extra second I've had
Same.
with her is so important. So the following year, there's no interview process at this point. Like, I'm a slam dunk into kindergarten, because if I can clean toilets and houses, I can certainly enter kindergarten. If I can use toxic chemicals, I'm good to learn my ABCs. And so I ran away from the school bus, trying to like negotiate another year, you know? And my mom was like, Amanda, like, I can't keep you home another year. Like, it begins to get illegal. Like, you have to go to school. So that is when I started school. So that was one of my first, I think, biggest things that set me on the path to who I am today, was because of that extra year.
There are so many similarities between you and Owen. I get it all. It's all coming full circle. That is so crazy.
Yeah. So who would have thought Amanda, 5-year-old, was a good negotiator?
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Your life just came full circle.
It did. What you got, Danielle?
Okay. So my first one, they're hard to pick, these kind of pivotal moments in your life. And you don't really think about what is happening at the time is actually setting you on a different path. So in 2009, I did a study abroad trip. It changed my life for multiple reasons, including I met my husband, but that's besides the point. I knew that I liked to travel. I went on, me and my mom, we would go on vacations every year, like, you know, things like that, Florida, whatever. I did a month study abroad in Southeast Asia. We went to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand, and I fell in love. I fell in love with travel. I fell in love with different cultures, with learning about different areas. It is such a passion of mine, and it is something that I have let slide in my life. Obviously, COVID, not a whole lot of travel happening right now.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have Watson experience the things that I experienced. It literally changed my life, and I cannot even put it into words. I feel like I talk about it all the time, but it is so surreal to picture the way that other people live their lives and how much they knew about us and our culture and our even political system. It's so crazy of how little I knew about theirs. And it's so sad. I cannot wait to get back to traveling. It has been something that over like the last year or so, like once they finally took away your right to travel, it was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. And I have put that passion on a back burner for a multitude of reasons. But, you know, you come up with excuses of, oh, I don't have the money, or, oh, at the time, you know, when it was just me and Brandon and we had a dog, Buddha, like, oh, we need somebody to watch Buddha for us. And then you just let all of these excuses kind of pile up on top of each other. And I just can't wait to get back to it and hopefully have my family experience the things that I've experienced. And I just miss it so much. I had culture shock when I came back home, like seeing cars on the street was like a very weird thing. Seeing buildings, watching TV, being able to access the internet, like all of these things were really weird. We were, not every time, but we were staying in hostels and we were staying in, you know, literally like sleeping in tents and sleeping in canopies and having these bug tents around us and stuff. Like, I mean, we stayed at a hotel, a floating hotel on the River Kwai, and it literally was a floating hotel. There was no running water. There was no electricity. You had to walk across this bridge one person at a time. There was no handrail, nothing. It was like, don't fall in the water. There's parasites. Like, please try to stay on this tiny bridge that was like this big. It's crazy, but I wouldn't take it back for anything. And I just miss traveling.
So a couple things there. You are the reason why I told Owen that he could go on that trip. That since has been postponed, and who knows when it'll get rescheduled. But it was your story and your passion behind knowing how much that trip meant to you.
Yes.
Gave me the confidence to say, yes, you could go on that almost 4-week trip without me, because I was not going to rob him of that experience you described because of my need to have my son by me. So I appreciate you having that experience and sharing that story with me, because it really changed my vision on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But
it took my mom pushing me to go. I was terrified to go. I mean, I'd been to Mexico once, that, I'd been to Canada once. Like, those were my experiences outside of the United States. And it took very long conversation with my mom being like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You need to go. You need to do this.
And they really are a once in a lifetime opportunity. Because like you said, you haven't done it again.
Nope. Nope. I've been to other countries and stuff like that, but nothing like that.
And
I will go back.
You said that you met Brandon on that trip?
I did not. I met my friend Nick Capal, who we've had Benny Capal on here. I met Nick through that trip. We became friends. He was like one of like two guys that went on the trip. And me and Nick, I just love him so much. And he was friends with Brandon, and that's how we met.
Let me ask you, if you could describe that trip in a feeling, because we can hear how much it impacted your life. What was it? It affected your heart, your brain? Like, I know you're a very like logical, sensible person, but I almost feel like a part of your soul was touched by
100%.
Which
I would say
sometimes doesn't affect you that way.
Yes, it touched my heart. It touched my brain. It touched my gut. Like, it touched everything. We went to the killing fields in Cambodia.
Ooh.
Quick side story. It's a very not great story, but I'm going to tell it anyways, because this moment was when I was like, oh my God, like this was the exact moment that changed everything for me. This was our second country. We went to Vietnam first. Vietnam was fantastic. Probably my favorite place in the entire world that I've been to. Cambodia was very sad. So we went to the killing fields, and this is where they had their mass genocide. And they had the room after room where they would keep these kids. Basically, they were like stolen kids, and they were just getting ready to be executed. And they would it was awful. They took pictures of these kids, and they would have, and there was, men, women, children, there was everything, but they would take pictures of these people with numbers in front of them. And they would take pictures of them and plaster them up against the wall. And these kids had like these giant smiles on their faces. I'm going to cry, probably because they had never had their picture taken before. I'm not really sure. They were probably just excited. And one of these rooms, it was in the very back room. There was like a cell basically. And all of there was a bunch of spray painting and stuff like that, like graffiti was done. And there was a spray painting picture of this little boy who was so excited holding his number. Like, somebody did a fantastic job spray painting, like a perfect replica on this thing, on this wall. And it said, "One life, just live." And that's what I have tattooed on my foot because of that trip. But like right there, I mean, I was in tears. Just
how could you not be?
Oh my God. It was utterly heartbreaking, but it was the moment that changed everything for me. Yep.
That's, I just, when we said obviously our kids are our most important job, right, in this world. And to think of anyone not honoring a child, just, I can't fathom it. And it just hurts my heart.
Me too.
Bridgette, make us laugh. What is your number 2?
Oh no.
Because I'm teary-eyed.
Well, I'm not going to make you laugh.
Okay. Noted.
No, so when before I was a mom, I remember of course I remember. My grandma was sick. She had cancer, and moved in with my dad. And I watched my dad take care of her, whatever. It's just what you do when you have, you're an ailing mother. I hope my children are listening to me in the next room. But anyway, watching my grandma, she broke her leg. She was in her 80s. She had cancer. Broke her leg. And we took her to the hospital, and they said, listen, she's 86 years old. We could do this surgery, but I don't know that it makes sense. And so they had that conversation with my grandma, and she chose not to do the surgery. And I will never forget, she said, Bridgette, I'm never going to dance again. And like was kind of just making it like light and airy for all of us. And I can remember they immediately put her in hospice, knowing that she wasn't going to come out of the hospital at that point. But I can remember her making that decision and then watching her die with such dignity and such grace, and she was not afraid. At least not outwardly, maybe inwardly she was, but she taught me such a lesson about death and dying and going out your own way. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I'm just so grateful for that, because death is scary, right? Like,
yes,
it's not something that I, even as a Christian, look forward to or am comfortable with. It's scary to think about that. And every time I think about my own death, I just get terrified. Like, what is it going to be like? And, how is it going to happen? And, there's just all these questions that we don't know the answers to. But it was just amazing to me. And I remember talking to my other grandma at the time about how, that was my dad's mom. She was in the hospital and she wasn't going to come out, and hospice was there. And my grandma, my mom's mom, said, I can't imagine laying in the hospital knowing I'm going to die. Like, that would be awful. And that really bothered me for a second. But I know she didn't mean it
for sure
in a way that would be bothersome. I think she was probably thinking of her own mortality.
She was absolutely, yeah.
But man, her name was Marilyn, Grandma Marilyn. She was always somebody who was anxious. I think my dad was a very anxious and depressive person, and I think I've got a lot of their traits, for better or for worse. But to watch someone who I knew struggled with anxiety and struggled with feeling alone and feeling sad go through the process of death just so gracefully over those few days, it was such a gift. And I'm just so thankful for it.
And I know more people, like you said, to you, death is scary, right? And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's not necessarily scary for me, but there are some people who, I would say more people are afraid of death than not. And so for her to be able to, on her deathbed, basically give you that gift of peace and that message, that's what a true elder is supposed to do. Yeah. And I don't think elders are what elders used to be. And I wish people, because I think aging is so looked at as a bad thing, where it's really not. It's just a part of life. And so I feel like if more people would embrace the aging and like talk about the death and those new seasons, I think more people could get comfortable with it and just be able to move on with a little bit more peace. So for her to share those words with you and hear you say that how important they were, I love that so much.
Yeah, and I think we forget as a society that it's a privilege to get old, right?
Yes.
It's a privilege.
Yes.
And she was 86 when she died. She was not young. And I can remember her saying, I wonder if there'll be a Hallmark store in heaven.
Because she Hallmark store in heaven?
Loved Hallmark.
That's
this woman.
Cute.
That's adorable.
She was so cute. But yeah, wow. It was amazing. And it was the first big loss in my life. Mm-hmm. And I was older. I mean, I was in my late-ish 20s when she died. And I can remember thinking, like, so many people have already lost a grandparent. I'm so lucky to be in my 20s losing someone for the first time. And I've since, lost my dad. Mm-hmm. I've lost my grandpa. I've lost someone who was like a father to me. And each time I feel like I'm able to handle it because of the example she set. So it's beautiful. And I hope that when my time comes, I give that same example to my children and, you know, God willing, my grandchildren. And it doesn't have to be scary.
Oh, it's a very tragic, but very beautiful story.
Yeah.
I think something that you said is very important. She kind of chose her own terms, which that's important. Have you guys ever seen Secondhand Lions or Secondhand Lions? Oh my gosh.
I've heard of it.
Movie. It is the cutest movie.
It's one of those feel-good movies though, right? Yeah.
Yes. But
we don't do those here.
Yeah, it is a very good movie. And it's always referenced they went out with their boots on. And that's what I like always think about is like they went out on their own terms. And that to me is important because when you can go out on your own terms, because only that person can decide what those terms are and what it looks like. So, what a good one. So sad story. So let's make it a little light.
Okay, good. I like how Amanda's are lighthearted.
Yeah.
Such as our personalities, you know?
Yeah. I'm like depressive.
Ooh, yeah, I don't want to cry anymore this episode. So let's talk about work.
All right.
Yeah. So I would say, of course, there's a lot of other pivotal things in my childhood and stuff, but I would say the next like season for me was really when I could start working like a real job. And I'll never forget, when I went in there, I was probably 14 and it was Villa Party Store in Monroe. And and Joanne, the Cusimanos, love them. They have such a big spot in my heart. They're such an amazing family. I went in there. I was like, are you guys hiring? And I was too young because legally you had to be 15 basically to work. And she told me that. And so she said, come back and see me when you're 15. So the day I turned 15, I went in there and I got myself a job. And I tell you what, that was in the summer because I turned 15 in July. And they made the best subs in town. And I was the sub girl. And I tell you, like, I am a hard worker, but Joanne is like a hard worker. The whole Cusimano family are hard workers. So it only enhanced my hard working. So it was so fun to be part of that. And so I worked there a solid year before I was 16 and legal to work in other areas, like other companies. And that's when I went to the hardware store at 16. And that absolutely started the path to that career of hardware pre-Owen. But that was a monumental time that she took that risk on that 15-year-old. And that was when I got the taste of money.
Yes. And taxes, right? You remember your first paycheck as like an official working person?
Oh, yes.
But you know what? Listen, like $97 or whatever the case may be. I can't even remember. It was so sweet and so golden. I didn't care if it was a quarter. It was mine and I earned it. And it felt so good. And you know what I love the most is that's when I became super independent. I started saving money for my car. I was buying my own school clothes. And so I kind of was able to take a financial burden off of my parents.
Wow.
Because of that job. And it was something I was so proud to do. Not that they expected it, but I loved being able to contribute like that and just kind of take care of my own stuff. And it felt so good. So 15-year-old Amanda spinning those subs. Woo! I can still make a killer sub. Till this day, I still get called, hey, sub girl.
I want you to make me a sub.
When I'm in a store, people remember me from when I was 15 at Villa Party Store.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So much fun. So Danielle, what's your second? Please don't make us cry again.
I won't, but it is not a happy story either.
You know what? No, tragedy defines us.
It does.
It's true. It is very true. Oftentimes tragedy makes people even better people than people who go through tragedy. So it is powerful.
Tragedy puts things into perspective too.
Yep.
You can be stressed out to the max because of X, Y, and Z. And then something happens and you look at X, Y, and Z and you're like, not important. Literally doesn't matter if that gets done or not.
Oh, ain't that? Well, just you're telling the last story. It really thinking of when children were massacred, basically, you go, wow, that vertigo I just felt on Friday. I should get past it.
Well, I mean, we all are going through our own things, and you know,
it takes the poor me out of the situation. So it's good when these stories are shared. So you're right, Danielle.
Agreed. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. This is kind of 2 and 2.5 for me because they go hand in hand. So my dad died in 2015, and it was a very big surprise. He died 2 weeks before his 50th birthday, so he was very young. It was just absolutely the worst day on the planet for me, like just absolutely horrific. Yeah. And I would say my 2.5 for that is when I was able to officially talk about it. I have no specific date for that. I can't remember if it was a year later or a year and a half later. I have no idea. And I don't even know. I know that we've talked about the fact that my dad has died. I don't know if we've talked about how or why he died.
I don't think so.
But my dad had a very big addictive personality. And my dad died from a heroin overdose. And it took me a very long time to be able to say those words out loud. It was a very shameful and quiet thing for him. And so after he died, I took that burden on as well. And I wanted to keep his, secret with me. And I realized that that's not helping anybody. And it was very hard at his funeral, and all his friends were asking, and I, barely knew any of his friends and stuff. And everybody was asking me, what happened? What happened? And at the time we didn't have the report back yet, but I knew what happened. There was evidence. We don't need to go into it all. But it was a very, tragic thing for me to experience, but then also very empowering in a way to be able to come forward and talk about it. It's still hard. It will probably always be hard. Of course. But knowing that I was sharing his story and I was helping to sponsor a 5K, which hopefully will come back, Rethink Addiction. If anybody is in the Southeast Michigan area, hopefully that will be happening this year. I don't know.
I remember we went that one year and we had shirts and everything.
Oh my gosh. I was way too emotional about that, guys. My work family, they get me. And I didn't know anything about this. They showed up with shirts on and they said in memory, and they had my dad's name on it. Like it was a very, very important thing. But I have lost a lot of family members to addiction on my dad's side. My dad was just the icing on the cake for me. Like it was just utterly horrific. But anyways, I'm able to talk about it and be okay with it. There's, I clearly have a bit of a wall up about it. And I know that that's something that I need to work on. I definitely miss my dad so much. I miss him every day. I think about him every day, but I don't cry about it a whole lot anymore. Got that wall up going, but I am able to talk about it. And, I hope that by sharing his story that it helps some people.
Well, and I was going to say, Amanda and I obviously knew the story behind his death. And anyone that is close to you knows that. But I'm just so proud of you for sharing it here, because you have no idea who you may have just impacted with saying those words out loud. Addiction, it has such a terrible, terrible stigma around it.
Yes.
And so when we lose people to addiction, I lost a cousin to addiction. It's like embarrassing. You don't want to tell people.
Yes, 100%. They were embarrassed about it, so you have to be embarrassed about it. They didn't talk about it, so you can't talk about it. It becomes like a whole cycle. And it sucks.
And you don't want to put a shadow over people's memories of that person either. No. You think, well, if I don't tell people the reason for his death, then people will still respect him and love him. And sometimes our minds play such tricks on us, and you think, well, if people really knew why, there would be some sort of judgment on him, and you don't want that. But there shouldn't be, because it's an epidemic.
Yes.
The heroin addiction and addiction of all kinds. So I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was a very hard thing for me to eventually come to terms with and be able to talk about. But I realized that, my dad didn't fit the mold of being, I mean, he was very functioning. He held down a very high paying job at Ford. I mean, he worked full time. Very few people knew that he had any sort of issue going on, let alone this type of issue. He was a drinker and things like that as well. So this was not this was not his only demon, but it was by far the biggest. And addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't say you have to be under a certain age or you have to be over a certain age or you can't be a parent. It literally doesn't matter, and it sneaks up on you fast. And that's all it takes.
I'll throw a 0.5 in for my moments as well, because it bounces off of the addiction, because you're right, addiction does not discriminate. And I do think it's a personality trait. I
100%.
really, every bone of my body says that to me. The science proof behind it, I don't know if it exists, but it just seems right. If other things are inherited, why would that not be? And I know I've shared with you guys, but at like the age of 8, I knew not to smoke or drink because I knew
Same.
I would love it. And so unfortunately, not a lot of people at 8 years old can come to that conclusion.
So true.
But so I think the addiction thing is so important to talk about. And it's not that no one's above it. No one's above it.
Nope.
No.
I didn't do it because I knew I would love it. I'd probably love it all.
Absolutely. I come from people who were addicts as well. My grandpa was an alcoholic for years. My dad was an alcoholic before he had children. I mean, I didn't know him as an alcoholic. He had managed to like straighten himself out as far as that went. But I'm the same way. I have such an addictive personality. Food, shopping, whatever it is. I was a hardcore smoker for years and years and years.
I still can't believe that.
I can't either.
It just amazes me.
Yeah. And I still, to this day, if somebody handed me one, now after having COVID and feeling that in my lungs, I don't think I will. But if someone handed me one, like a month ago, absolutely. I loved it.
So question, have you shared that with the boys?
Yeah, they know.
Okay. Which is, I think, a good thing, because I think
so too.
The tale of don't start, because if you start, the stop. It's the stop that's the problem. It's not the start, it's the stop. And so many people can't get to the point where they can stop. And that's why it's called recovery, because it's an ongoing effort to stay clean of whatever substance it is.
This is kind of a side tangent, but this is something that always bothered me. So you see those, well, we don't have cable anymore, cable TV. We just have like Netflix and stuff. So we don't really see commercials anymore. But there was a commercial a couple years ago that I can remember for a recovery center. And I can remember the guy coming on. He was the owner of this place. And he was like, I used to be an addict. Now I'm not. You should come here and blah, blah, blah. And it frustrated me to no end, knowing everything that my father went through. He had been through AA. He had been through NA. He had been through rehabs before this. And to know that I know this, that once you are an addict, you are always an addict. Always. You can be in recovery. You cannot have used for 25, 50 years. It doesn't matter. You were still always an addict. And that frustrated me to no end, to hear somebody who is in a power, position at a facility saying, I'm no longer an addict. You can be too. Like, it just drives me nuts. I just thought of that. But that,
and I'm sure you're just one of many who had those same thoughts.
I'm sure. Yep.
Well, that was, so how do we move forward on a happier note?
I don't know.
I know.
Well, these were all pivotal times for us. Things that changed our path for the good, even if it was through the bad. And we're proud of those things. And I'm sure sometimes we wish we wouldn't have had to go through them.
100%.
But life hands us things that are unfair every single day.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would not be the person I am without those things happening. Would not be.
Yeah, 100%. And there's not a lot that you can learn from good stuff, right? Because there's no struggle in that. It's when you have to come through on the other side of the bad that there's a lesson that you've learned. Hopefully have learned.
Yes. Sometimes it takes years to do it, but
yeah. And I think that's important to know. Sometimes you can't see the good in a bad in that now.
Right.
Yes.
It can take some seasons of time, to get you in the mind frame, and after the hurt and the grieving, to finally see it as, this caused me now to see life differently and become a better person.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't be half of the wife that I am or half of the mom that I am had these things not happened.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. There's only so much, I think, Bridgette, you just said it. I think there's only so much that the good things can really teach you.
Unless you're Amanda negotiating your way out of kindergarten.
I mean, you can definitely figure out things about your personality early on. That's for sure.
That taught me a lot. Even though it wasn't teaching me an education, I was getting a lot of street smarts.
So wild.
So Amanda, sorry guys. That's just who I am.
Well, hopefully, if nothing else, people can look back on some of the things that have gone on in their lives that, there's an underlying lesson because of, and they can see how their lives have changed because of it.
Yes.
Because you can't always see that right away.
No. And I think I have a B for our wrap this up. And I think it should be open about those stories.
Ooh.
Because I think it's really important that, especially as we're aging mature women, that we share these stories with our children and the younger generations, so they maybe can learn from our lessons a little bit, so they have an easier path. Or if they go down the same path that maybe we did, and we're talking about overall life here, that they know that they can still come out okay.
Yes.
So be open with those stories. Good.
I love it.
And the bad.
Love it.
I love it. I love it.
This was an emotional one.
I know.
I didn't think it was going to be so emotional.
I didn't think so either. I thought I would do okay. I'm going to have like mascara and stuff. That's,
That's okay.
Good day to not. I usually don't put mascara on my lower lash line. I usually just skip it because I'm lazy. And today I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. And now I'm like, great.
Your skin still looks flawless. And I'm sure, who's your friend that always says that about Danielle?
Michelle.
Yeah,
Michelle.
I
thank you.
We'll expect a text to Bridgette confirming that your makeup looked fabulous on episode 26.
It doesn't come naturally. Okay. Doesn't come naturally.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in this week, for joining us. We are so thankful to be able to have an outlet for these stories and for people who are interested in hearing them. And we're interested in hearing yours too.
Yes.
So share with us if you're willing, if you're ready to. If there's a moment in time in your life that you can pinpoint that changed your life and molded you into the person that you are today, we would be interested to hear those stories.
I would love that. Leave us a comment if you are watching us on Facebook or on Instagram or YouTube. Shameless plug there. Head over to our Facebook VIP group. Share your stories over there to a more like curated group, I guess.
Smaller,
more
private.
Yeah.
Intimate. There we go.
Intimate. Ooh, I like it.
And you can always send us a private message too if you wanted to share a story that was a little bit more private that you didn't want public, but you wanted to be heard anyway. We would love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff, you guys. This was a good episode. It was hard, but it was good.
It was. All right. Well, until next week, we will see you later.
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.